Well, how you doing? This is Bob from Makana Odyssey, and today I'm going to continue what happens when a person dies. What happens to your soul? What happens to you? Well, of course, you know that this body is rented. We are sort of like a cyborg in a sense, so the soul can travel. Now, the soul must have a life. In other words, for the soul to advance, it has to have the life experience. Now, there are many, many realms. There is other planets that have people on them. There's many, but they say that Earth is one of the toughest ones for some reason, probably because of the tremendous amount of violence that goes on here and stuff of this sort. So let's start here. So a person passes, the soul leaves the body, and the soul finds itself, first of all, very relieved, very feeling magnificent because it has detached from this body that it's using. And then there's a light that soul has to follow. It's sort of like a portal, that it goes to and it's back home in the spirit world. There are different levels of the spirit world, though. Now, there are some souls who get stuck here because they get confused. Sometimes it's because of very harsh conditions that they live through, in the human body, which causes them confusion. Sometimes the soul gets into a mind that's sort of contaminated in some way or another, and they go astray. But we will talk about that in a minute. What happens to the souls, because that's a question I get quite often, is what happens to the souls that are tremendously cruel, like mass murderers or people that commit genocide, stuff of this sort. We'll talk about that in a second. So, now the soul has to follow that light. It goes back and it is home. However, again, there are different levels there. But as they're traveling through this light, they're going to see entities. Some of the entities are going to be relatives that have passed. They're positively going to be in touch with their guide. We all have guides from the second we're born to the time we die, and sometimes they're the same guide year after, a life after life. So we sort of get reprogrammed in a sense. We live, we look at all of the things that happened here on Earth and see how much we have progressed or not progressed, stuff of that sort. Now, the souls that do go astray and do these horrible things like genocide and stuff of this sort, they when they go back, they are not allowed to reach to be reborn. They're not allowed to be reborn because there was too much problem. There was too many problems that they caused. Of course, genocide would be one. Um, so they are isolated from the rest of the souls, and maybe eventually they will be able to be reprogrammed enough to come back. I haven't got an idea on that, but I do know that they are separated and they are not allowed to reincarnate. Now, each time we reincarnate, and we have to reincarnate if we have unfinished business on Earth, and a tremendous amount of us have problems here on Earth that we have to finish because it is a school. We have to learn. We have to have the human experience. We have to be able to control that body, that human that we're in, and steer it hopefully in the right direction to benefit us, as a soul. So we have to steer this soul, this human. Until we really learn how to completely do that, we're going to keep reincarnating. Now, on the other side, we're going to meet, of course, the people we loved and people that you think you don't know. These are people from your history that went back 1,000 years sometimes. It's amazing who you find who you will find there because it's completely different than life on Earth. There was not that tug of who's right, who's wrong, stuff of this sort. And as far as there being sort of like a hell, there's no hell. We do have to be reprogrammed if we don't do the right thing. But one of the problems that I have, and of course, one of these doctors have that same problem, is when you say if you don't follow a certain religion, you're going to hell, or you're not going to get into heaven. This is all not true. We are magnificent. We are souls. We are eternal. There are rules that we have to follow, though, of course, and we follow them in the afterlife. as well, and we learn, and we come back, and we go through the experience again. Sometimes we have to go through this experience several thousand times until we really get it 100%. Then we raise up. In other words, there are some entities that are here, and some that are here, and some that are way up. Through life's experiences and through your enlightenment, you become more and more of a powerful soul, a powerful entity. So when you come back sometimes as a wise man or a woman, stuff of this sort, and you're able to. Your goal is to help, and you're pretty much isolated from all the crap that goes on in the world because you're way above that now. Your intellect is tremendously higher when it comes to that. Like sometimes we'll say a a Buddhist or a guru, some yogis, some of the Dalai Lamas that have reached that point of perfection where they don't feel the anger, they don't feel the pull back and forth that we have here on earth. Now, as far as there being proof of things like this, there's one that really amazed me. You know, I have studied thousands of these past life experiences, for instance. I should say near death experiences, sorry. So there was one which really stuck in my mind. There's been a lot, but this particular one was a blind person. Now, this person was blind from birth, completely blind. In other words, like you put a black cloud over their eye and they could not see, a black rag or something. So this person had a near death experience. And they described everything. They described the accident that they had, they described the hospital, they described the emergency room, the doctors, everything. They seen all of this clear. When they were revived, they were still blind. They have not been able to see since birth. So that is an amazing thing that this person that is totally blind can see everything that's happening around them. Why? Because you're not blind. You know, in the spirit world, you're blind here. And there might be a reason why. When we come back, we have to sometimes experience different things. Like, for instance, say that you're someone who is a woman beater, we'll go there, and you make a woman suffer terribly because you know you're so abusive. Now, when you go back, of course, you have to be, get this reprogrammed, see what happened, and then that same soul, which would be you, would decide or choose to come back as a woman who's going to be abused. So it can understand what happened, what it did, and understand the consequences of what it had done. Also, we do travel in packs. We travel with people we love. That's why a lot of times it's very difficult for some souls to actually follow the light, because if they're with a soulmate that they truly, truly love, they don't want to really leave. So they end up as a ghost. Because that's what ghosts are, by the way. See, ghosts are not some kind of crazy entity that are running around causing evil. These are souls that are confused. And yes, there are times when some entities can enter a human body, and right away people think, "Oh, it's demonic." It is not, because in reality, there's no demons like people think. There's a whole different thing about that, which I will talk about. But there's nothing like that in reality. Every entity will love you. Everyone. There is no like, you know, good and bad in a sense in that way, like a devil and there's God and stuff like this. It's not really that way. We have gods. There are gods, of course. There are very high entities, and that help to steer us. That there is. It isn't that you die and you go someplace and there is all of this counseling or whatever it might be, however you want to term it, and there's no high entity that has created this, because there is. There are different gods. I truly, truly believe that. I do pray to more than one God myself, and there are different gods, and they have a tremendous amount of influence on what we do in this life. But never doubt that there is life after death. Now, of course, we fear dying because we fear the unknown, but I want to tell you, there is so much proof that it is amazing, amazing. I'm going to tell you a quick story. another story. I told you about the blind person, but I'm going to tell you about a child. See, children a lot of times remember a past life up until they're about 5, and then sort of they start to forget about it. But there was this one child, and his father was changing him. And he probably was about 3 years old or something. And he says to the father, "Daddy, I used to change you." And the father laughed, and he would always laugh about that, thinking it's silly because the kid would always say, "It was me changing you." And they told the wife about it, and they sort of discounted that somewhat, but then they continued. So they took him to a doctor, some of these doctors that I study, and the doctor says, "Well, you know what? He seems to really believe, this here. I have an idea. Let's take out a family album." Now remember, this child is like 3, 4 years old, but then they think probably was almost 5. So they says he's never seen this album before. It's been in the closet full of dust for years. Anyway, so they took out this uh, album, and they started to flip the pages, and they came to one page where there was the kids in the gym. You know how you line up in the gym and take a picture, and the child goes, there I am," and he points his finger on this man's father, his grandfather, and he goes, that's me." Of course, the parents go, "Oh shit, really?" Right? So now they turn another page. Let's continue. They turn another page, and there's an old Buick. And he goes, "That's my first car." And that was his father's first car. Not his father, his grandfather's first car. And then he says, "You know what else? I have a sister, but she sleeps with the fish." Now, this is the child. Remember the child's mentality. So they're both going, "Sleeps with the fish. What is that about?" So now the father starts to think. And he goes, "Well, you know what? There is a story that my father told me many years ago, but I just discounted it. I mean, I just forgot about it." He goes, "His sister was killed on the pier and thrown in the water." And the wife said, "How come you never told me about that?" He goes, "Well, you know what? It's been a long time ago. I heard about it when I was a kid, and it just never came up." But yes, the child knew that he had a sister, in another life, and the sister was killed and thrown into the bay. So it's amazing, and there's been so many stories like that it's amazing. Another story which I just seen, and there's a panel of doctors, which I was looking at also, and I give them credit for this, of course. There was another guy who was driving. He's a truck driver, and he had some arrhythmia, heart skips. So he went to the emergency room and he died. Now he's had this out of body experience where you raise up, you out of your body, and he's looking down and he's seeing everything that goes on. They're working on him, they're using defibrillators, everything, to get him back to life. So he comes out, they got him back, and he's telling the doctor he sees all of this stuff. "I was above, I seen this, I seen the nurse, I seen that." And the doctor tells this psychiatrist guy that was there, and the guy says, "Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to question him," and he does. So he says, "Well, doctor, I seen everything. I seen, me laying on the thing. I seen the fibrillation. I seen all of that." He goes, "But the strangest thing that I seen was the doctor was flapping his arms like a chicken." So naturally, this therapist laughs. "Really?" He thought that's a little bit weird. So he said, "But you know what? I'm going to question the doctor anyway," and he does. And he says to the doctor, he says he's seen you flapping your arms like a chicken. And the doctor says, "Well, what actually happens is that I'm tremendously frightened of contaminating myself after I scrub. So what I do is I scrub and then I put my hands here on my chest like this, right?" He says, "Because that's the cleanest spot. And then as the nurses and assistants are around the bed, I do this. You over there, you over there, you over there." So, when he's going like this, he goes, and that's how I direct the people where to stand. He's have a mask, and he goes, "I'm going, you over there, you over there." So yes, that's why the person thought he was flapping his arms like a chicken. I thought that was a very funny story, but a very true story. But there's been thousands and thousands and thousands, I'm not forever, of these stories that are so true. One thing I do find is there are some people who think they visit hell, for instance. That I don't put any any amount of thought into that, because the human mind also does play tricks on us. There is no hell. The majority of these show people who have to be reprogrammed in a sense, and that have to be isolated from other souls, or be not allowed to come back to be reincarnated. Now, see, a soul, again, I told you in the beginning, cannot advance itself unless it goes through the life's experience. So without the life's experience, it stagnates in the spirit world because it can't grow. The very reason that I feel that we even were made, on this planet is for a school, for the gods to be able to perfect the souls. This is what I seem to gather from all of this, is that we are tools so that they can learn. Now, of course, again, this body here is just a rented piece of equipment. It does go back to the earth, but our souls are eternal. They are magnificent. So anybody who has any fears about this should think about this. You should do a little research on it as well. There's a lot more that I want to discuss about this, but I'm not going to make a video for a tremendous amount of time. But what I will tell you is that what happens, you die, your body lifts up and it sees everything, and your body hangs around for a few days also. Your soul, I'm sorry, your soul hangs around for a few days. It wants to see what's happening and see what's happening around, like with the family. It doesn't want to leave the loved ones and stuff of this sort. So it hangs around before it actually has a chance to go to the light. Again, there are souls that do not go to the light. My own brother, I had to help cross over. We do that at our shop also. We do help people to cross over. And I had to cross my own brother over because he didn't believe, and he had a tremendous time, a hard time trying to understand that he was even dead. So I did have to help him to cross, and I did. So these are things to think about. Again, like I say, food for thought in some of my other videos. It's food for thought. The idea is to be the best possible person that you can be. Love one another with all your heart and soul. And understand, we all will be together again. So those people who have lost somebody that they love dearly, whether it's a mother, brother, sister, husband, doesn't matter what type of soul you have lost, you will see each other again. And soon, because life is very short. If you live to 100, it's still short. You might think it's a long time, but it's not. Not in the spirit world. Spirit world is like big. You know what I mean? So while your soul is here on vacation, because this is what this is, a big vacation for your soul, a learning vacation, or I should say a trip, a college trip where you're learning. Understand that. And understand that your loved ones are there, they're watching you, they will be there for you when you pass, and you will travel together again. But next time you might be grandma, and they might be the grandchild. The next time you'll be the husband, the other person will be the wife. It just depends, because we have to get that whole experience of everything that's going on in the human world for all of this knowledge to really make us um, enlightened, and to get that perfected mind, spiritual mind, I should say, so that we are a much higher entity. And there are millions of realms, millions, and we visit them all. Okay, so remember, I am at the Oviedo Mall. I'm sorry, Oviedo Mall. I'm at the Rediger Mall in Mount Dora, which is in the greater Orlando area. Contact me if you want, 321-274-7442. Please like this video and subscribe. And I intend to make more videos. I want to see how these 2 videos that I made work out first. And there's so much more to tell, I couldn't tell it all at one time. There's a tremendous amount. But remember, the key word is what? Believe. Not me. Believe. Believe in yourself. Believe in your soul. Believe in who you are. Believe in your immortality, because you have it. And remember, the worst of us don't get a chance to reincarnate. So be the best that you can be. Namaste and blessed be.